to today's show. Oh my goodness, is a government shutdown coming on January 19th? Mainstream media reporting that a potential government shutdown could be coming. Give me a break. Besides the fact that we really operate under not what you would call or at least perceive as a government, because the people in positions of power are nothing more than actors who are pretending to give these orders, pretending that they're elected into these positions when they're all selected and placed there, all working together on the left and the right, taking orders from the bankers, taking orders from the quote-unquote elitists above them, the people who control the resources, the finances, and the power structure of the world. That means the elite family bloodlines, like the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers. That's really who's in control of the government. But we've been seeing and hearing all this stuff. They've been teasing government shutdown for quite a while. And now they're saying, oh, there's a real chance that something could be happening and a shutdown could happen on January 19th, according to such credible news sources as the Washington Post and CNN. A division for Democrats pondering a government shutdown this year, January 19th, instead of 2020. Like I said, there is no such thing as a government shutdown, because the whole government setup, the whole structure here in America is nothing but a show. It says a year after losing the presidency, Democrats are facing an uncomfortable question. Are they willing to force a government shutdown to extract political victories? A hardball tactic for which they have long blasted Republicans. The dilemma comes as a January 19th funding deadline approaches, and bipartisan negotiations over immigration and other issues have so far failed to produce an agreement. The thorniest issue is the fate of dreamers, roughly 2 million young immigrants brought to the U.S. illegally as children, some of whom had gained legal status under a program known as Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals that President Trump canceled. So, I'm not saying that it's out of the realm of possibility for them to pretend that the government's being shut down. What I'm saying is understand that the left and the right who are working together would put on this facade and this show to create chaos, to bring order out of chaos. Do I believe it'll happen by the 19th? No. Do I believe that they're going to continue to tease these types of things as this Trump presidency continues on? Absolutely. It's nothing more than a distraction. It's nothing more than something to keep people thinking that there's a left and a right, to keep them in this false paradigm of believing in this republic that doesn't exist. Now, they'll play off the strings and the emotions of people because they'll be using trigger words like talking about children, but not talking about children in the sense that channels like mine talk about children and how they're trafficked, abused, born into covens, need to be rescued, need to be saved, how they're SRA victims out there who are just completely in need of help and support. No, they don't to sympathize with them. But what they'll do is they'll have Oprah, they'll have Hollywood, quote-unquote liberals, these pretend Satanists pretending to be liberals when the Republicans are just as depraved as the liberals are. They'll have them come out and they'll protest and they'll say, there's 2 million young immigrants in the U.S., children who are going to be thrown out by Donald Trump. Oh, and then people on the left, here comes the circle, right? Like I always say, the mouse in the wheel going nowhere, pretending that stuff like this is real. The more that they condition you into thinking this stuff is real, the more they create these fake stories about government shutdowns, about left, right. Will the Democrats do this? Will the Republicans do that? The more that they do that, the more that the masses out there are conditioned into thinking that this stuff is real. And obviously at this point, as you know, the listener of this channel, trying to wake people up, even people who claim to be awake. You know, people claiming to be awake, but they believe that this is a republic. It's like you just want to pull your hair out of your head. Oh, okay, there's an elite government who can, the bankers and all these guys, and they all talk about them, but then they go, yeah, but they allow this to be a republic, and anybody can get elected for the presidency, and yeah, oh, of course, that's exactly what the Rothschilds would do. They'd allow somebody to step in and say, hey, there's Satanists, we're going to stop the Federal Reserve, and all these people are, a part of trafficking children, a part of black man. Yeah, sure, they would allow that. That'd be the quickest sniper rifle to your head you could possibly imagine. But the more they use repetition to talk about this stuff, the harder it is to break people away. And that's one of the hardest things to break people away from, is the believing that this is a republic. It's like they believe if you tell them that it's not, they lose all hope. They're like, what hope do we have left? And I always try to say, your hope should only be in Jesus Christ, not in anything else. You shouldn't put your hope in man. You should put your hope in government. You shouldn't put your hope in a president. These are all puppets. They're all actors. Literally, we have actors in office. I mean, we had Reagan. We have Trump. They're talking about Oprah potentially being the president. All this just absolute lunacy. The Rock being the president. You can't make this stuff up. It says a growing number of Democratic lawmakers have announced they will not support any spending bills unless the fate of DACA recipients is secured. Now party leaders must decide how far they're willing to go. A bipartisan White House meeting on Tuesday produced vague and sometimes contradictory promises from Trump, but no clear path toward a deal. Top Republican leaders, meanwhile, said they oppose adding immigration provisions to a spending bill ahead of a January 19th deadline. That leaves Democratic leaders walking a tightrope, wielding their leverage, but also trying to avoid the peril of an election year shutdown that could rally the Republican base and alienate swing voters. Huh? I mean, listen to this garbage. Yes, swing voters. It's just hilarious. It's hilarious. Yeah, that's exactly what they're thinking, since they all know that there's no such thing as your vote counting and whatnot. But of course they know that, and that's the point. If they can create this illusion inside of your brain that all this stuff exists and all this is going on, then you're living in a false reality. And that's really what's going on. You hear all that stuff in movies and TV shows, right? We've grown up and seen all this stuff. They always talk about different realities, or two realities happening in the same place at the same time. And, you know, the stupid crap they make us watch in science class, you know, with matter and how matter takes up space. And, oh, this could be going on here in the same exact time right now, but you can't see it. Well, in reality, what they're telling you is that we're literally living in two realities, okay? Because they've created this fake matrix, which is a prison of the mind, and everybody lives inside of it. And then there's those of us who are awake, who know what's going on. And what they do is they try to fight against us and censor us however they can. When they see us clawing at people, trying to bring them to an awakening, they shut us down, they take away our free speech. It says at the heart of the challenge is an internal split between lawmakers up for re-election this year, several of them in Republican-leaning states, and those eyeing a higher national profile who are trying to appeal to the party's liberal base, right? This is all just garbage that they pretend and they play out. This is what the people on the TV will talk about. Oh, and the left has to do this to get people ready for the vote. What? What? The people listening don't even know what you're talking about. They pretend they do. They go to work at the water cooler. Oh, yes, these liberals and their swing votes. Yeah, absolutely. Get a clue, would you? It says, meanwhile, potential 2020 presidential hopefuls such as Senator Harris are drawing a hard line. They're saying no wall, nope. So they're talking about the wall. Republicans have majorities in both chambers of Congress, but they don't have the Senate supermajority necessary to rally the 60 votes needed for major legislation. Lawmakers refused last year's spending showdowns, the first with Trump at the White House, by largely punting into 28 key decisions on spending levels, immigration policy, and federal debt limit. Now, thanks in part to an impending immigration deadline and pressure from activists, Democrats are under pressure not only to take action now, but also not to bend to GOP demands for border wall funding and other policy changes that would curtail immigration. So this whole immigration thing is upped in the last 24 hours as well. Some crackdown going on at 7-Eleven. I mean, you want to talk about stereotyping this, right? All they've done, you know, since we were kids is program us with 7-Eleven and immigrants working there. I've been to a few 7-Elevens, and I've never seen an immigrant working there in my life. But this big CNN story, they're cracking down. 7-Elevens are getting cracked down on. This comes 24 hours after this nonsense comes out, where they're talking about a government shutdown. It's all part of the show. It's how they keep everybody in this paradigm, right? Because people can't grasp the fact that this is all fiction. And it's pretty easy to grasp it if you just think about it. If you think about human instinct and how these people lust for power, for wealth. Because it's the same thing you see people fighting over in the real world, fighting over jobs, right? Fighting over who's going to get a raise, who makes more money at their office, who has the bigger house, the bigger car, the better looking wife. They've created all this stuff, or at least upped it. They've taken things that are part of human instinct and they've upped it and made it just like the way to live, the mindset to live by. So people are just like so caught up and enamored in this system. They could never believe that this whole thing, all these news sites and all this stuff, these things that we're supposed to trust could be fabrications and fake. And they go, how would somebody like this guy or a bunch of people out there who claim to be awake and really know what's going on? You know, a lot of us are blessed to have eyes to see and ears to hear. And a lot of people are just too prideful. That's the thing. Pride is the reason that most people don't wake up, and pride is Satan's sin. People are way too prideful. They love this stuff. They love the system. They love going out for happy hour, which you could put a bullet in my brain. I mean, really, going out for happy hour and then talking politics. Did you hear that speech that Oprah gave? Oh, yes. How wonderful. Oh, but Donald Trump is going to crack down on immigration. Oh, yeah? Excuse me while I go stick my head in the toilet and flush it. I mean, how dumb do people have to be? But they don't realize that they're just complete zombies going through life. And, you know, as you continue through your awakening, you feel less, like my pity and what I feel bad for is the victims who have no control, which are children. I do feel a sense of anybody who's been abused, even if they grow up and become a handler, they don't get a free pass. They still need to be, taken down. They need to accept responsibility. But those type of people who are just so mentally messed up, you feel so bad for them, and you want to pry them away. But these people who are just obsessed with the system and prideful about it, I don't feel any sympathy for them, because God gave us all free will and free thought. And if you're that stupid into believing this stuff, I don't know what to tell you. But this is what they're pushing, this potential government shutdown next week. Obviously, nothing will likely happen. Okay, but just keep in mind, when stuff like this does happen, it's for a reason. The government will never really shut down. Okay? The people behind it are always going to be behind it. They could just pretend, hey, the White House is shut down today. That's all they have to say. People go, they don't even know what that means. Government shutdown. Now there's no this and there's no that. And people will just go along with it, believing it, instead of asking questions, going, what does it even mean, government shutdown? What does it mean, Trump's not showing up for work? Huh? What does it mean? The subways are going to stop running, the taxis are going to stop working, everything's going to shut off automatically, they're going to turn the electricity off and the power off, and military tanks are going to come down our road? I mean, give me a break. This is just more crap to keep people trapped. I thank everybody for listening to today's show. I thank all of you for being awake and not buying into this stuff. It's nice to have people who at least can rationally think. The people listening to this channel are obviously awake, the majority are. And hopefully those who are new to the channel, you'll start your awakening process, start looking at this stuff, understanding that it's a false reality. The false reality they always talk about, I'm not talking about matter in the same space going on in two different universes colliding at once. Because literally they're talking about the fact that we're all living in the same space, and there are two different universes going on at once. The universe of living in mind control and the universe of living out of it. You have to decide which one you want to be a part of. It's easier to go down the path of playing along with the Matrix, I suppose, for some. But for me, as difficult as this is, as dark as it is to see this stuff every day, to know this stuff, knowing you have salvation through Jesus Christ, obviously makes it all better, makes you feel better. It should, if you're a true believer. But I'd rather be, this world's a nightmare, than look at this from the other perspective of swallowing the other pill, sitting at a cubicle with my thumb up my rear end, making phone calls. Hi, would you like to buy a vacuum cleaner? I mean, whatever people are doing is pointless. And trust me, I've been there for many, many years. It's a nightmare, an absolute nightmare. But we got to keep waking people up. So showing them how fake all this stuff is with Republicans and Democrats is one of the hardest things to do. Trust me on that. That's why I always tell people, start with signs and symbols. And people go, we're beyond that stuff. Oh, are we? I mean, people in their own head, they think how they think. They're like, I'm awake, so everybody should be awake. How do you not see it? Oh, we're beyond signs and symbols. Oh, yeah, well, clearly these are people who can't think and don't have a clue how to wake people up, who are operating at a stupidity level because they think everybody's brain is functioning at their level. And half the time they just lie and make stuff up anyway. People need to wake up in their own way, whether it's showing them signs and symbols in music videos, whether it's showing them chemtrails, whether it's showing them the satanic cults. Something's going to trigger somebody to snap out of this in a different way. This is one of the harder ways. Signs and symbols is an easier way because they see the repetition. They say, why are all these businesses using the same symbols? Why are all these music videos using the same symbols? Right? What is Freemasonry? What are these colors? The black and white symbolism, the all-seeing eye, the pyramid. Then their brain starts to think, then they start spotting it when they're watching TV because they're consciously thinking now. You tell them, hey, watch TV and think while you're watching it. Don't fall asleep, look for this stuff, and you'll see it. And they start seeing it. They go, whoa. Trust me, anytime the TV's on, I see it every 5 to 10 seconds. I'm not even kidding. Depending on what you're watching. Watching something fiction or reality-based all around the house, right? I mean, I'm always looking at what's on the shelf behind them. Oh, there's an owl, right? There's black and white tiles. There's a phoenix rising on the wall. There's an all-seeing eye. easier for people to see that way. Telling them that the left and right doesn't exist is a hard way to start. Because there's people who claim to be awake that actually believe that this crap is still a republic. And that's pretty sad. I thank everybody for listening to today's show. God bless all of you and your families.